Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's January 30th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it was mostly all downhill today. We had some corrections in there. We had one right out of the open, and we moved on down. Then we had another one here with a break of this two-tiered channel, and I saw this as a spike and channel down with two tiers. But I'm going to show you a little trick here in a minute, and you don't see this as much, but I'll show it to you here in a second. Then we traded back down. We never did make a new low. We ended up really just kind of going sideways from about lunchtime into the close. So, but even though I saw this as a spiking channel, once we started going higher here, copy this line again. I made it brown just so it looks a little different and drag it to the top. And look what happens when you drag it to the top. You had another touch. I mean, that was another equal distance. Notice how there's another equal distance channel there. And you won't see that as much, but you'll see it sometimes. And maybe this is the upper side of the channel, and maybe your midline. I haven't even looked at it that way, but it's possible. That you can probably find another midline here. And that seems to fit fairly well, but that's probably going to be, if you try to get right in the middle, it's probably going to be right in there somewhere. And you can see we do have a little, let me make this a little bigger. And you do see where it gaps over there, turns down there. You get some resistance there. So there's probably a larger two-tier channel here. And maybe I played it wrong. It still works out, and I think it helps you better to use this. This is a spiking channel, but that's just another way to look at it. You can see that does fit in there. But the main thing is to find this line up here. And if you just copy your previous ones and drag them up, it fits perfect. So as I showed you. But again, maybe there's just a larger two-tier channel here, and it's not really a spiking channel. Or people could have seen it both ways, and that's the reason it plays out rather both ways. You don't really get many plays off this line right here, this midline. You don't really get any at all, to be honest. And you don't get any plays really off this line until late in the morning. So, but you could have found that anyway by, just copying this line and dragging it up as I showed you. So I'm going to remove the brown. I'll leave the upper one up there just so when we get to it, you can see it a little better. But here was your first leg down during the overnight. So once we started going lower, I'd look for a measured move. And you can see we pretty much got, let's just see how close we are. You can see we got a perfect measured move down, and it bounced. And that would have given you an idea. Sometimes it's kind of hard to determine where your line's got to go in here because there's so much stem right there. Maybe you had a little better setup, but if you just use your measured move and move this down to that, it would have got you a perfect bounce. Again, we'll put that back, and you can see that gives you a perfect bounce. So just using the measured move, you may not have known where it's going to hit along in there. So I just put it equal distance, and that would have gotten you in the right idea. But if you use that measured move too, you can see, I mean, it's to the tick and it bounces. And so you can't hardly beat that. That was a great target on that one. But let's talk about the trades. If you saw this as a spiking channel, which is the way I looked at it, and really I was playing this up on the way. You get a break, couple legs up to a new high, and then it sells off. So you really need to wait on a lower high. You get one here, not a very good setup, and then it bounces again. But now, look what happens. You got two attempts to go higher, big bearish bar. I like going short there. And if you didn't get shaken out of this one, I like adding on. And if you weren't in here, you definitely want to get in here. And if you draw the little trend line up there too, you'll see the close and the attempt to go to a new high. Really, it's right off that low. And you can see you get a close outside move to a new high, and this is actually a little steeper right along there. But anyway, it's a double test of this level if you draw your little support line across there. See it a little better there. But anyway, it's a double test of this level over here, and it is a second entry long. You're moving up, first entry, pull back, second entry. And if you catch that one trade or either one of those, if you've got a double set here and you can ride this down, and you're almost done for the day before you even get to the regular open. And that's the kind of days I like. And really, you got a double top, and so this you can treat this like a new high, first entry, pull back, second entry, and it is right off that short-term trend line, key entry point. It's a little close to the lows, but I still like it because it's such a bearish bar, and you can treat it like a failed second entry long, and it's also a little bit of a breakout pullback long. It breaks out of this. There's another little area down here. You can see there's a little support across there, and it breaks lower and pulls back. It's a little breakout pullback short. So there's a couple different reasons to like that one. And it is right at this midline as well, and you would figure that prices are going to come to the lower side. And by that time, the midline's pretty obvious as well. And so you move on down. It's getting too risky down in here. You're getting too far away from the EMA for too long. They're too closest to the lows, the lower than overnight. It's tempting to go long right here, but since you don't really have that anywhere close to that measured move, because that's way down here, I don't think you want to go long here. You may risk a long there, but what really turns me away from it, if you'd had another nice little higher bullish bar here, but it just starts stacking up, so I think you got to skip it. You miss a nice move up, unfortunately. There is a failed second entry short right there, and it is off the trend line. But again, you got 2 or 3 bars stacking up. This one's just maybe a tick away from being a perfect doji. Again, not a great setup, but you may be headed back to the trend line, so you might argue for that one to be green. But again, if it was back here at the EMA and this thing had completely played out, then maybe. But looking at it like that, I'm just not crazy about it. So you're better off to wait on the shorts. And guess what? It comes back to the trend line. You get a close outside, a lower high, right off that key entry point, big bearish bar. Just go short right there. And then you get a failed second entry long. So another chance to get in. It's moving down. It gives you another pullback here, but that bar is not bearish enough. I'm not crazy about it. It's more of a neutral type bar. You come back to the trend line again, but now you're right back into the lows, and you see what happens. It breaks lower. Probably would have been enough to scalp out, and then it reverses. But again, that's the first break of this channel, so you're not looking for any longs again. And then we just kind of start going sideways, but look what happens. You get a failed breakout, a lower high that actually went higher and turns and goes out. I like going short there. You've got just enough room to get out. It actually goes a little further, but you could have gotten out before you got to this low. There was just enough room there. And it tries to come up again, and then you get another little breakout pullback short there right off that key entry and big bearish bar. So I like that. And it's very similar to this over here. It's almost a repeat pattern. It's much tighter and smaller, but it looks very similar to what happened here earlier. And notice how you're making lower highs every single time, and that's really a double top, and it's right at off the EMA, right off the midline. That's a good indication you're probably going lower. And off it goes. And that turns out to be another one that you can just ride right on down. You could have gotten runners on a lot of these today. I did make this one green just simply because it's getting into the uh, this is the lows of the day, and there's still a little 2-bar matching low there, so it's a little bit aggressive. But if you see what's going on here and you recognize it as looking very similar to this, then maybe you take it. But this one's iffy. This was your better entry when it went higher and turned down right there. You wouldn't have got a runner off this one. This one you would have. And the bottom just falls out of it. Then it bounces. And again, I just really don't think you want to be going long because there's no break of this main trend line yet. There's a failed second entry short right here with it riding back up. And you might argue for that one. But again, I think you're better off just to skip the shorts. I'll make that one green. But you're going long right into the highs of them after 2 legs up. So, but the thing is, if you did notice the 2 legs up, then you could treat that like it's like a failure, because that's where you would expect prices to turn down again, because we've really overshot a measured move, and then it turns up. And you can see how they fake some people out. Look how it shoots up real fast. That's a good sign that they've got some traders that are needing to get out, trying to get out, and that's what makes it rocket up like that. So, and it is right off the key entry point of this short term. Hopefully you can see that there. Right up here, you're back to the trend line. So you figure after a break here, if you get a higher low, you probably want to go short. And notice what happens. You get a close outside, a couple legs up to a new high, then a lower high. Look how big and bearish that bar is. I like going short right there. Quick, easy move. And then unexpectedly, it bounces and goes higher. This one caught me off guard. So you don't want to be getting long here. That was kind of a surprise. And again, you probably want to wait on a lower high. If you get one, you probably want to go short. And you actually get one here. It's more of a neutral bar though, so then you get the failed second entry long. I like going short there. It's a neutral bar, but it's a failed second entry long. Take that one, and then it pulls back one more time. It's still creeping down that trend line. That's a good sign that we're probably headed at least to here, and we could be going down to testing. You're really looking for shorts here still, because this was the first set of closes outside this 2-tiered channel, and if you drug this line up, it's also working off that line again. So I like that one. I didn't like this one just because this one it actually went higher, so you're going short when it breaks below that bar. You could have waited for this one to complete. If you did, I don't think I'd want to go short way down here. But if you did, you could, when it breaks lower, you can drop a limit order back up here, and you would have got filled at the same spot that you would have if you just had your stop under that one. And it pulls back and gives you another little breakout pullback short. And you're really halfway in between the upper trend line and this one. But I'm not as crazy about that one. And there's actually a shorter term trend line down through here, and it is right off that trend line. So you could probably argue for that one to be green, because it's similar to the pattern we've seen earlier with the breakout pullback short at the support area. And then of course it bounces. And the only reason I marked this one green is this confirmed this trend line. And there is a close, and that there's a close outside this one. And but that's the first close outside this line, and you don't have any new low yet. So I'm a little leery of that, even though it is confirming this trend line working up. The bias has been mostly down, and this is about where the correction is before you expect it to possibly try to go lower again. So I'm not crazy about any longs at this point. And notice what happens. It shoots up, turns down right off that key entry point again. That is a second entry short, but it's not a very good signal bar. Wait on the lower high, which comes here. It breaks higher. It's kind of a neutral bar, but if it breaks below here, it's probably going lower. This one is really close. You could argue for that one to be green as well because it's just not a great setup. But it does take on off. You get a failed second entry long here, but it's right into the low. There's 3 or 4 bars stacked up. I'm just not crazy about that one. And you have had a break and a new low now, so it could reverse again. But notice what happens. You get a little bit of a correction here. Let me put that trend line on. It closes outside, moves to a new high. First entry long, second entry long, it fails. Just go short right there. And you don't want to be getting long in here with everything below the EMA and making lower highs and lower lows. You're just looking for something to get you short again, and there it is. Quick move down. Again, this is another little breakout pullback short. So again, you could probably argue for that one. I'll at least make it green because it's a repeating pattern that we've seen multiple times today. And there really is room to get out, but it's a first entry. Notice that's a new low, so that's a first entry. But then it tries to go higher again and fails and gives you that big bearish bar. So I like that one. And then it pulls back again and gives you a second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. And then it bounces. And that really, notice you got another trend line coming up. And you get a close outside, one leg up, pull back, second leg up. It turns down, pushes through the EMA, pulls back, gives you a lower high and a chance to go short right there on the lower high. And off it goes again. And again, you're probably thinking, well, maybe you could go long here, but I just don't like it because you've already had a close and a new high, and it may push up there. There's not enough room to get out. It may just push up there and make a double top, or it may not even get that high and turn down. So I think you're better off just to sit on that one. And notice get this little reversal pattern. I would have liked to have seen a failed second entry long, which tried to come here. So you almost could treat that like one and maybe argue for that one to be green because it basically is close to being a failed second entry long. So, and off it goes again. And right at the 2 o'clock hour it bounces, and we just really kind of working sideways here. But again, we're making lower highs each time. Even though we're kind of flat down here, you're making lower highs, so it's still got a downward bias to it. So lots of entries today, mostly only shorts. Oops. But in the end, it turned out to be a really good trading day. Again, if you can catch a couple of these in a runner, you know you can be done early today. If you're just trying to get your daily goal, and that's the kind of days I like. But when you get a big downtrend, of course, you might have got a little bored right in here, but when you get a big downtrend like this, you know, and it just keeps going lower, you want to take advantage of it because there's lots of good setups today, and they're fairly easy to see for the most part. Somebody had sent me something, and they got burned here trying to get long, and that's exactly why you don't try to get long, because the rule in the big picture, this is a downtrend, and this is just a correction, and your trend hadn't played out yet, and because this was the only real trend line you could find down through here. So even if you didn't play this as a spiking channel, you should have been able to find that trend line right there. And at some point, like I said, I showed you that little secret of dragging it up, and that would have given you back over here, and that probably would have kept you out of these longs. But that's why you got to be careful on a big strong downtrend day, especially from here on, because it was downhill for relatively strongly, and that was a second leg down. There's actually 2 legs in that first leg, and then there's a couple of legs in the next leg. And of course, if you really dig in, there's legs, smaller legs within inside those. But when it starts bouncing here, you got to look at this as a correction in a big downtrend. And so you got to be really careful getting long. And if you start trying to get long up in here, you're just, you're trying to pick a bottom again. And while you could argue to take some longs in here, most of them would have burned you. Any of these would have probably burned you. Um, you got a reversal pattern down here. If you'd taken it would have worked. But you're coming off a bounce after a big move down. When you start working higher and you start getting long up in here near these highs, you're always risking something. So, you're better off looking for shorts on these, because this is just a correction in a bigger downtrend. So hopefully that makes sense. And we'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.